Hello YouTube, this is probably going to be a long video, and that's because I'm basically coming to grips with reality in terms of my fitness goal. And I know I often talk about that, but there's no excuse at this point to even reference that. Um, my original goal was to get to 10% body fat, but now it's probably going to be about probably 8 to 9%, probably more like 9%, because if I want to eat normal again and stay lean, somewhere between 10 and 11%, obviously I should expect a bit of a climb. So I want to show you my recent in-body scan results, and so go ahead and see it now. Notice how I went up in body fat percentage. I went from 12.1% to 13.3%, and that is an indication that my mindset hasn't been properly set for cutting in the last 2 weeks. And I understand it's not 18% or 20% or whatever, but it's still significant enough to realize that I was basically trying to get back into maintenance mode and avoid the negative feelings of cutting. And I'm not saying, and basically I was avoiding trying to do any fasting really. But you could see that basically, I want to say that in a way I took the cuts less seriously, and I was basically letting myself do too many days of, and when I did say, I said I did do a handful of days where I had too many calories. But let me tell you something, that was way beyond anything I ever did before the 7-day fast, which was like 1,200 calories here, 800 calories there for one day, and so on and so forth, right? So, and the other thing too is, like, for example, I've been less strict about measuring out my foods, a little less strict. And I'm not saying that I wasn't counting properly, but I want to say that, for example, now I really have to start doing that, because, like, for example, a lot of times I won't even count the vegetables as having calories, but they do contribute to some extent. And I mean, you can eat a lot of vegetables and still, maintain lower calorie, but I still have to do something like that. So I have to basically measure every little thing. I have to realize right now. So right now I'm at 13.3% body fat, and that's not bad. That's pretty good. That's still basically in the elite athlete category for leanness. But I'm basically at a point where I'm basically in a different league of trying to get to a certain leanness. And as I've stated before, right, I predicted this properly, that once you start pushing down, it becomes just that much harder to keep pushing and keep pushing. And I definitely am starting to see that effect. It's a nonlinear process. The more you push towards the 10%, the harder and harder and harder it is. And I'm living proof. I mean, I was fortunate that the 7-day fast caused me to get, and by the way, I'm still on the 3-day fast. I'm about to break it. And you're going to see the cooking in this video. But as you can see, I'm basically now in the elite category of the elite league now when it comes to leanness. And I have to realize that. So I have to do things that are like in the top 0.01% of the population in order for me to just continue leaning out. Which goes back to another point. I started doing this thing with my job where I'm basically putting in extra hours. That's got to go. Unfortunately, if maybe do 1 hour every other day, but don't. This whole thing about 2 to 3 hours going to the office and going, that's got to go. That's got to go. Unfortunately, if I want to push towards my goal, and I'm pretty close to that goal, I have to say, get your ass to the gym. I mean, that's just the way it is. Like, and I'm not saying I don't have time to do that usually, but what ends up happening is that there's like some variation. Like, your body isn't going to be adjusted to do the same thing every single day. You have to make adjustments for it, for what it's saying, so that you can. It's like you're tending a kid or something. You're tending a pet or something. So you really, if I want to get down to 10% or 8 to 9%, whatever, I mean, I'm almost there. I'm almost there. But I have to do several tweaks. So one of those things is I have to be more accurate at taking measurements, right? Second thing I have to do is I have to, how would I say this, measure, well, I already said measure all my food. Sorry. I literally have to take every single food has to be measured. I mean, I can, if I'm eating the same thing literally every day, then I already know from the previous days how much it's going to be. So I don't need to do that if that were the case. But certainly start measuring vegetables, start measuring. You got to be more accurate. You got to be more accurate. I got to be more accurate. That's one thing. The second thing is, again, no more 2 hours, 3 hours of overtime. Go get your ass to the gym, or run or do something active, right? Third thing, I have to start sleeping better. For whatever reason, sometimes I'll get 6 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep, and just operate off of that. I need a 7 to 8 hours of sleep. That just has to happen. Fourth thing, I have to go to the sauna more often. And I know I was doing this prior to the 12.1% body fat measurement quite a lot more frequently. But it's just got to happen. And then fifth thing, I guess, is drink more tea. I mean, I was doing that a little bit, but out of convenience, I was drinking more coffee, and I just thought, oh, well, I'll just drink more coffee. And the sixth thing, I guess you could say, I mean, I just keep coming up with the random things, but they're important, is to really focus on wellness. Just like you're on a fast, focus on wellness. And I guess the seventh thing that's related to that is I have to be willing, which is related to the first thing, which is related to an eighth thing that I'm going to mention. I have to be willing to experience what I'm feeling right now all the time. Meaning the sense of a cut, that sense, like sometimes you kind of feel a little weak and you go outside and stuff like that. And I have to embrace feeling this way all the time, which is going to go back to which is going to be related to 8.8 and 0.9. And so that's one thing, is I have to be willing to feel this way just about all the time, maybe at least 90% of the time. But the eighth thing is that I have to basically cap my calories low, but to the point where I'm doing OMAD. And what I mean by that is now I discovered if I ever said I was doing OMAD, I've been doing it wrong this entire time. And that pretty much is equivalent to lower calories, but it doesn't have to be a fixed amount. And what I mean by that is it could be up to, let's say, 1,600 or whatever my basal metabolic rate is showing, and that's what it's showing. And then the eighth thing, I forgot what I was going to say. But anyway, so when it comes to that caloric thing, that OMAD thing, right? The reason why I say I've been doing OMAD wrong, actually this is related to number 9, is because basically I think OMAD, and see, from an elite point of view, I have to consider myself elite at this point because I'm at a certain body fat percentage that people would kill to get, right? But yet I'm trying to get even more leaner, right? So what I mean by doing OMAD right, is you have to gauge, and this is weird. I'm starting to realize this. I just suddenly figured it out. I was like, you have to gauge, like, even though you're doing one meal, your body, or let's say if you have one period of time that you're eating, like you have an eating window, and you call that OMAD. You say, well, I'm only eating one meal a day, and that's but I'm going to have, say, 6,000 calories on my OMAD day, just go crazy at it. Let me tell you something. I really wish that the nutritionists out there would be more vocal about this, but in my opinion, OMAD, insofar that I understand, OMAD is more about the macros that you put into your body, and something that your body's used to. So, for example, for me, when I end up having, for whatever reason, and maybe it's the macros, or maybe it's the kind of nutrient it is, or whatever, but when I have my steak and my salad, that can be considered, or whatever it could be, like maybe egg whites and all this other stuff, that could be considered one meal. My body can consider that one meal, right? It'll say, okay, this is one meal. But then when I start, maybe if I have like little bits of dark chocolate up to 10, 20 calories, that's fine. But when you get up to 50, 100 calories of dark chocolate and the nut butter and other stuff, like once it starts getting to 100 calories, then my body registers that as a secondary meal. So even if I think I'm doing OMAD and I'm having both at the same time, and it may seem like it's just a little bit more calories, my body registers it as 2 fucking meals. And I can corroborate this based off of the low ketone levels that I was experiencing. Now, that's one way to look at it, but you could also look at it as the macros that I've been having in those other things are causing my ketones to go down after having a fatty meal or whatever. Although that, I would say, is not as reasonable of an answer to what's going on. I think that there's a complication in which your body does not register certain things that you input all at once as an OMAD meal. In order for your body to register, because an OMAD meal, because I've done this before, I've had certain OMAD meals where, it's low calorie, it was like 1,200, maybe even upwards of 1,400 or 1,500, where maybe an hour later, 2 hours later, my ketones will remain very, very high, especially after coming off of a fast. And this is what I'm hoping is going to happen right now. Right now, I'm hoping to feel exactly how I feel right now after having the meal. The only difference is that if I'm working out or if I'm doing something, I don't feel as weak, And like right now, the weakness feeling, like technically I have enough good fat in me and stuff like that to where I can start, or I should say, the fat that I stored in my body, or whatever, I can continue using that for however, obviously it's because of the fact that it's got calories, for another 10 days of fasting. But do I want to do that? Well, I might want to do that to get down to 8% body fat, right? Or whatever, even 7%. I wouldn't want to get that far. 9%, 8 to 9% is good. But I'm just saying that I could technically do that, right? But remember, it's the whole idea that once you start getting back into it, so I may end up doing that later on just so that I can get there. But in order for you to get used to adjusting to calories again, right? You have to, you have to be able to incorporate them at least on an OMAD level. But see, I'm thinking that there's basically a compromise between doing the calorie game and doing a fasting game, because you kind of want that feeling of a cut where you're fasting, because you'll be, basically it means you're on a cut pretty much, because when you've had so many calories that you no longer feel that hunger pain or whatever, but where that weakness feeling. But when you continue having that weakness feeling, you pretty much know you're on a cut. So that's what I'm hoping to get from this. And see, the only difference is that when you have your OMAD meal, you're able to do workouts and stuff like that and not feel like you're going to die while you're picking stuff up or whatever. And that's the whole point. And you want to have that ketone levels sustained. And so basically, you want to be able to achieve, and it doesn't matter if it's 800 calories, 1,200 calories, 1,500 calories, but God forbid it's not 800 calories every day. That's the whole idea, is that it better be somewhere between, it better be somewhere upwards of 12 to 1,500, right? And so that's because you don't want to destroy your metabolism. But that's the whole thing. And so after getting that DEXA scan, you'd be surprised. Like I knew, obviously I wasn't surprised, because I said whatever you see, don't feel bad. But it's interesting because once I saw that, I was like, uh-oh. I was like, you better get your ass, like, you better start thinking, what the fuck is going on, right? And I'm not saying, like, I just had this sense of urgency, like, dude, almost like with my manager and the productivity, that's how I felt. I was like, dude, what in the hell's going on? And if you take a hard look at it, even though, yeah, I'm not cheating. I'm not like going out and having Rebel ice cream or not. I mean, that's not the worst thing, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not having Ben and Jerry's, or I'm not having like McDonald's, or I'm not compromising my health in any way. The thing about this is that there is, okay, so here's the ninth thing that I was going to relate to, and I forgot I was going to mention it, is the ninth thing I'm going to do, which is related to pretty much everything I just talked about. I'm going to stop. I'm only going to once a week allow myself to indulge beyond the one meal. And I wouldn't necessarily call it indulge. It's more like remembering how to eat like a human. And I'm going to start having my nut butters, my dark chocolate and stuff like that as if I'm doing the 2100 calorie thing. But it's probably going to only be upwards of 18 to 1900 calories. I'm going to have to commit to this, because if I don't, guess what? Guess what's going to happen? I will not cut to 10%. It's just not going to happen. And I guess the 10th thing, or did I already mentioned this, I guess, is that I already mentioned it, that I need to basically start going back and doing exercise and cutting out, more often doing the saunas and stuff I was doing before, and going on hikes whenever I can on the weekends, and and that kind of thing. And so, and then just get the opportunity to run whenever I can, that kind of thing. So, and it's related because basically you're cutting out time that you're overtime that you're working on work, on office stuff. So yeah, I have this sense of urgency, and it's fucking important, man. It is so important, because getting there, that was my original goal, and like and they're right. The people on the fitness tubes and all that stuff, they are fucking right. It becomes harder and harder and harder the more you push. They are fucking right, I would say. But it is possible, it's very possible. It's not impossible, because according to so far my progress and all that, it's not impossible, right? But I will say that it's possible that it's impossible to do this on keto. It may not be possible to do this on keto. I don't know, but I kind of doubt it, because there are people out there that have been keto and they've gotten down to 3.5%. So, it's just kind of an excuse if you can't do it on keto. But yeah, I got to stop these nut butters, these keto bricks and all that. I'm going to keep those keto bricks. I'm not saying they're better for bulking. That's just the reality. They're better for bulking. And I'm going to keep them in there until they expire, probably. I'm not going to have another bite. I have like 2 left or something, but which might explain why I gained, partially why I gained, because it's just so easy to eat. It's just so easy to just stuff in you. So that is actually a bulking meal. I do not recommend. Do not. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but if you're trying to cut, I'm going to tell you something. That is not a cutting meal. Do not try to avoid as many nut butters as you can. Although I will say that if you indulge in it from time to time, and maybe if you're heavier, you can use it for a cut. But don't do the keto brick. Same thing with nuts. Like, be very careful about nuts. If you're gonna have nuts with your OMAD meal, make it no more than 20 calories, a handful. That's all you need, right? And so it's the same thing with biltong and all these other some of these other keto snacks or whatever. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, Nick, but your recommendations were all bulking meals, and I know you probably need to bulk a little bit, but I need to cut. That's what I'm in, the elite category. I'm in the elite category of cutting right now, and I just cannot manage to have that while I'm trying to cut. Maybe when I'm on a hike or something like that, but it's like to eat it every day and be part of the diet, I could subtract that shit out. I definitely can. Like this stuff that I just bought, I definitely will not be eating it anytime soon. These things, I'm not throwing them out, but they're going to be in my pantry, and I'm not going to be eating them anytime soon. They're going to, these are definitely not on the menu, so to speak, for me. And so I have to, again, I should not have really followed Nick's advice because in terms of where I'm at. Maybe he's trying to bulk, right? And that's fine, right? But I'm trying to cut. So I really have to look at this critically, right? Pretty much at this point, it's steak and eggs and some vegetables from time to time. That's about it. Make it simple, right? You don't need to eat. You don't need to indulge in anything. I mean, maybe once a week. There's no sense in indulgence especially if you're trying to be in an elite category of this kind of thing, right? There is just no sense in indulgence. Just no sense. And it's just the reality. I mean, if I'm being honest, I think one of the reasons why I enjoyed the indulgence is because unconsciously I deal with all these stressors every day, and it feels like it just feels so nice when I can have that little treat for myself, like these dark chocolates and stuff like that. And I'm not saying I shouldn't have like 1 square a day or something, which is what they recommend. But what I am saying is that certainly you don't have to do it every day, or you don't have to make it something where you have chow down a whole, dark chocolate, like a whole, whatever you get from the store, like the whole bar. You don't have to chug that down in one sitting, which is what sometimes I do like half of it, and then other times I'll do like 75% of it, but that's close to the whole thing compared to just having one little square a day or whatever. So, I mean, and I wouldn't even have a whole square. Most of the time you should have half a square, just, and for my sake, I'm not even going to have a whole square because of where I am and where I want, and the fact that I'm not where I want to be. So, and I'm in this elite category, so to speak. It has to be at this point. It has to be an elite category. So, I am very serious about this. And guess what? That also includes the layered latte. The layered latte that I like to have. I should only be having that about 2 or 3, maybe once a week. It just depends on the situation. Like certainly once I break my fast right now, I ain't gonna do that for another 2 days at least. And my mind I cannot have this mindset of let's go get another insulin spike. Let's go get another. You have that one meal, all right? You have your insulin spike, slight insulin spike, but you got that one meal that you're doing. And I don't care if it was only 600, 800, or 1500. It was that one meal. That should be the mentality. It's not about like, oh, I need to get more calories. And I know I've said this before, but see, there's a compromise between between fasting and the caloric balance in terms of cutting. And that is OMAD. Doing it right. That is. So, I'm just saying. This is going to be a very religious time of me. Not like I'm connecting to God or whatever, but very like strict kind of thing. So I'm going to show you exactly and it's going to take more time. There's no doubt about that. It's going to take me more time to cook meals now. But that's just the reality. There's nothing you could do about it. If you're a fat fuck and you got to lose all this weight, yeah, maybe you got to spend I'm not saying I'm a fat fuck. I'm just saying in general. Like, if you're a fat fuck and you got to lose 100 pounds, maybe you got to go to the gym 3 hours a day for the next 30 days. Maybe you got to fast for 20. I'm just saying 20 days. It's like, you got to get a really hard look at yourself and say, this is what I got to do. Now, I will say, it feels kind of like dangerous because you're in this weakness state and you're like, how can I survive for that long? Well, that just is what it is. It's like a new way of living because you're like fasting in a way all the time. That's what it is. So, unfortunately, I'm not saying unfortunately, but I'm coming to grips with reality, and this is just how it is. This is the way it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you're trying to cut, you got to do what you got to do. So my equivalent of that 100-pound overweight guy going to the gym 3 to 4 hours a day is spending the extra time to measure my foods out, to cook the right things and stuff like that, and to not indulge, right? And to make sure, like, I'm almost scared of the insulin release. I'm scared of it. I am so, I'm in this mindset of, I'm so, to me it's like getting on a roller coaster because I'm a wimp. I don't like roller coasters. I'm so afraid of the insulin spike caused by food that I'll do whatever it takes to get that shit out of my system. Even if I get a little glimpse of it. That's the correct mentality to have. And even if you get it from fat, I'm not afraid of fat. And I'm not anorexic in the sense of being afraid of fat. But what I am afraid of, and not afraid, but really, it's a fight against insulin. As soon as you get that insulin spike or any kind of insulin in you even from fat, just a little bit, you gotta fight the fight as if it's like trying to take control of your entire body. And you got to be like, okay, I'm going to do everything I can to get the shit out of me. And if that means going on a run or whatever, then that's what it's going to take, right? Because the big mistake is to embrace the insulin and feel comfortable with it and then sit down and say, oh yeah, I'm all good and stuff like that. That is the direction of bulking or maintaining or just being a fat fuck in general, right? That is the mentality of a fat fuck. That is why we call ourselves, or we're so hard on ourselves sometimes, and at least I do, call ourselves in the fitness space fat fucks, because we, like, in the back of our minds, we know that people kind of indulge in that kind of hormone. Like you can to some extent, but you could also use it to gain muscle and to also fight against it to make sure that your ketone levels can go up. So you could still have the nutrients from the stuff that's separate. That's a separate issue from the insulin. But I'm just saying that that's the ultimate issue. And this also goes back to the chia seed pudding. I'm also probably only going to have, I know it's nutritional. I know it's good to have from time to time. But I also think my body registers that, lumps that together as its own meal along with the meal of the nut butters and stuff. So I really can't let myself have that other insulin spike that goes along with it, So basically what I'm saying is, I guess somebody's coming to my door. Somebody's calling me. It's weird.